Welcome to Liberal Banter with Liz and Olu. This week, we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker, and we have some questions about the commencement speech he gave at Benedictine College over the past week. We also talk about SCOTUS and Justice Alito's flag issue with his front lawn. We talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene versus AOC versus Jasmine Crockett in the House and some chaos that occurred there over the past week during an oversight committee hearing. And finally, we have some unsolicited advice for travelers to Turks and Caicos. If y'all are planning your summer vacations, you might want to listen to this. So first story we want to talk about was the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, Harrison Butker. And I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I looked it up. It is Butker. That's not me making jokes. He gave a commencement address. Actually, before we get started, Olu, I know you had a question about the position he plays on the team. So it is a kicker. I know you're not a football fan.
I don't know what a kicker is, so you'd have to explain that to me.
Yeah, I figured because even NFL fans don't usually know who their kickers are on the team. You really only find out who the kicker is when you need an extra point or two to win a game and the kicker comes out and misses, and that's when kickers become famous. Nobody ever pays attention to them when they do their job, but when they miss a kick, problems happen. They're basically the ones that come out and kick the ball through the uprights on the football field for extra points after the team has done all the hard work of scoring a touchdown. Or they have these field goals, which are kind of like penalty kicks that you can take in the NFL, and they kick those too. This is really a position in the NFL that, honestly, people make jokes about. They're on the field during a game for maybe a few minutes at most combined, while most of the other players on the team are on there like at least 50% of the time, either offensively or defensively. So even NFL fans don't really view the kicker as some huge position of importance on the team. So don't worry if you don't know what he does. Some fans don't either. But this guy, he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was invited to give a graduation speech to the students of Benedictine College in Kansas. He had some truly mind-blowing advice for the women, especially, who were graduating. And remember, these are college graduates. These are not a bunch of kids in high school. These are women who have gone to school for 4 years, gotten a degree, are celebrating this accomplishment. And he decided to give them life advice because why wouldn't a bunch of 22-year-olds want to hear from a 28-year-old whose sole accomplishment in life is kicking a football? So here's a direct quote from the commencement speech that had everyone all up in arms on the internet. So he says the women should be proud of their accomplishment, and then says, I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I found this advice ridiculous. What are your thoughts, Olu?
I mean, I don't know where to start, but I will start from the order of ridiculousness that I think is going on here. First of all, he was at a Catholic liberal arts college, which is just an oxymoron to me.
My mind was blown. My mind was blown to hear the word Catholic and liberal arts next to each other as a description of a school, but please go.
I do not know how those could coexist. But the audacity he feels and the confidence he feels to venture a guess that most of the ladies there are not as excited about their college degrees as they are about like getting married and having children. Dude, what are you saying? So the guys have a right to go off to successful careers, and maybe some of the women should go off to successful careers, but actually what you think they're really excited about is getting a ring on their finger and having children. And this guy is 28.
He's 28.
He sounds like some priest from like the 1800s. What are you talking about?
I have no idea why he felt this was the correct arena and space for this. It's literally nobody asked him. I mean, they asked him to give a speech. Nobody asked him to give people advice on how to, navigate their careers. And I want to say, like, we're not saying there's anything wrong with being a homemaker or being someone who's solely focused on their career. In an ideal world, you would be able to do both. But the point of feminism is you can choose what you want. You can choose how focused you want to be on work versus home versus whatever. That is the point of trying to get equality for women. And for someone to come to a college graduation and tell women, sure, we're here to celebrate your degree, but that's not important. What you should be most excited about is getting married and having children. And then for those who are curious what advice he had for men, because this is this is not a women's college. There are men graduating as well. This is a quote from his advice to the gentlemen here today. He says, men have also been lied to because they are being told they are, quote, not necessary in the home or in our communities. As men, we set the tone of the culture, which, I mean, okay, I guess women are just here for decoration then. But continuing on, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. Wow. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. That is hilarious. I love that. Other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the US, and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. So now, lack of fathers is responsible for all violence, or plays a large role in the violence, according to Harrison Butker. And he decided to give us this hypothesis of the world at a college graduation.
Okay, but by his own logic, doesn't that then mean that men should also be more excited about going home and getting married and staying home?
No, because they're setting the tone of the culture. Someone has to do that work. You can't do both, Olu, okay? You have to, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, when you're out there fighting the good fight for the culture so we don't have, quote, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos, you can't be taking care of kids and raising them. Can't do that. You got to leave that to the old lady at home and go out there and be a man.
I mean, just the shallow brain drippings coming from this guy.
That is a new one. It's shallow brain dripping. Is this like a medical term? Like, what is a shallow brain dripping?
Just like there's no there. He has not thought anything through. He has not taken anything to its like logical conclusion. If we accept his premise that men are being taken away from the home, why does he not have advice for how men can be in the home?
Because they're not in the home. He did, right after giving that advice to women, he went on and on about what his woman does. He said she is the primary educator to our children. She is a wife who leans into her vocation, and he's beyond blessed with all the talents God has given him, and his beautiful wife is the one who lets him make sure he uses his talents to his fullest potential, and her talent is raising the kids. So okay. There you go.
Well, I mean, good for her, right? Like, if that is what she wants to do, that is fine. And let's hope that, well, she actually put out a statement saying that she believes homemakers should be celebrated. So my guess is that she also believes what is he believes, which is fine. The problem is the evangelical prescribing your own values and imposing them on others, because you could have just
Well,
come out and talked about your own family and how well your family are doing, and people would applaud that. We all want families to do well. The problem is that he is saying that these young ladies are wrong to be excited about their college degrees, and they should be more excited about getting married and having popping out babies.
I do want to say here that when you say evangelical, I don't want to take away any props whatsoever from the Catholic Church. This man is 100% Catholic. He's not an evangelical Christian in the sense of like one of those mega churches. He is Catholic, like Latin Mass Catholic. So let's not take it away from them. Let's give them their roses. This is a Catholic this is a Catholic man. And I say this because I was raised Catholic and I'm not anymore. My parents are going to be super excited to hear that. But one of the things that we really were taught growing up was that the Catholic Church was somehow better than some of these Protestant and evangelical churches. We were more evolved. We believed in science, and we had doctors and PhDs that were part of the Catholic Church, and I guess NFL kickers. And like that sense of pride in being a Catholic really allows Catholics to, I think in the US, get away with some of the things that other Christians don't. So, like, people seem to think that the Catholic Church is not as uber traditional as it really is. And this man is a product of that Catholic Church. So I don't want to take it away from them. This is Catholicism at its core. This is the point of the Catholic Church. Nothing he is saying is against Catholicism. So if you're one of those people out there who thinks that, the church is evolved because it's Catholic versus the other churches, it is not. This is what they believe.
I guess I meant evangelical in more of the, this is how you should live your life and this is our prescription for your life
Yes.
kind of thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
I take your point. Oftentimes people say evangelical Christians and they do not include Catholics in
Yeah,
that.
please do. Please do. It's not just the mega churches, it's the swinging the lantern with the, with the Holy Communion. It's all of that. It's Christianity. It's not just some types of Christians. But, Harrison he has received some support for this, which is not surprising. There are people who love, quote unquote tradition. I don't know if the people who invited him to speak support him. I do know that the nuns of this school, Benedictine College, said that they want to be an inclusive community and they reject his definition of what it means to be Catholic. They said his words were divisive. And these were the nuns and sisters of the church, not necessarily the entire school. But some people tied to this did say that this is not what they believe. So he didn't get total support, but it seems like he did get some support, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. And so far, the nuns have responded, but not the board of directors, not the actual university president, which I find interesting that it is the nuns who are having to do this. It's the women who are having to clean up the mess that the actual leadership of the university should have tried to avoid. Did anybody know who Harrison Butker is? Did anybody know what kind of views he espouses? I've never heard of this guy before, but if you are going to invite him, you should probably have some kind of idea of who he is and what kind of values he's going to be teaching your graduates.
Yeah, I think it's possible that that they knew. I did see he has done some interviews before on Catholic publications, so I think they knew. And honestly, that's probably what they wanted. So good for them, I guess. Now I've never heard of this school or this person, but now I know. So I'll take that into consideration if I have kids who are considering school in Kansas for some reason. At least we know where not to send them. Let's move on to the next topic, which was about Justice Alito and a little flag. He says it's a mishap that happened outside his home.
Yes, so Justice Alito, who is one of the more right-wing justices on the Supreme Court, was his house was pictured with a flag flying upside down. So the stars were at the bottom left corner of the flag, and they should be at the upper corner of the flag. And I'm learning this for the first time, but apparently this is the flag that signals to, January 6ers and election conspiracy believers and the MAGA group that, we are part of the people who believe that Trump is the real president and the election was stolen. So obviously this is a problem, that a flag that symbolizes such a divisive moment in our country was being flown at Justice Alito's house. That is what it looks like on the surface, but you dig deeper and the story actually just gets stupider. So Justice Alito released a statement saying that he did not put up the flag. His wife did, which, classy, blame it on your wife.
Of course, very, very manly to blame it on his wife. Very
Exactly.
manly.
I'm pretty sure Butker would approve.
Exactly.
He blames it on his wife, and he says his wife was involved in some kind of argument, some kind of war of words with her neighbors about political views, and this was her response to whatever it is they said to her, or whatever gestures they made to her. But in my mind, a Supreme Court justice and his wife should know how to, put the flag up appropriately. Now, I will admit that I did not know this, okay? If I saw this flag in the wild upside down, I don't think it would register to me that it's upside down. And I definitely didn't know that this is, related to right-wing conspiracies.
Well, I mean, I would hope you know when it's upside down. Like the stars go in the upper left corner of the flag. That's how it should be. Stars first,
Okay.
then stripes.
I am ashamed to admit that I don't know. I would not have noticed it. I don't think I would have.
We gotta send you to Canada or something at this point. Like that's all rights revoked if you don't know how the flag goes. But I mean, this is the thing. Like you may not know, but he's a judge on the U.S. Supreme Court. He knows. He should know. And it sounded like this flag was like that for a few days, so he can't say he never saw it. At some point, he could have been. I mean, you live with someone. If something is going on outside the front of your house, don't you go in and you're like, "Hey, babe, what is this? Like, why is the flag upside down? What's happening?" At no point did he ask. He was just like, okay, cool. I guess that's what we're doing. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yep. And I don't know. It seems like they have pretty, vocal, annoying neighbors. I'm pretty sure those neighbors probably told them, like, yo, this flag means, support for the election deniers. So, I mean, if those people
I bet
are,
they did.
if those people are as annoying as they're trying to portray them, being in her face about her political views, I can bet you that they told her that flag means this. And, I guess she chose to still keep it up. But what I don't understand is why she thought it was even okay to engage in a war of words and a war of gestures with her neighbors. Um, I understand that she is the wife, so she is a private citizen. But at the end of the day, it is his house, and whatever you do will be linked to him. I am sorry, but you don't get to like engage in a flame war and a meme war with your neighbors as a Supreme Court justice's wife, as a Supreme Court justice's spouse,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
husband or wife. You just don't get to do this.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said for that saying where we come from, which is just, it's two words, it's respect yourself. Just think about what you are doing, think about your standing, think about your position, respect yourself. You are the spouse of a Supreme Court justice. Don't start texting January 6th people and espousing basically treason over a text message, Ginny Thomas. Respect yourself. You know, don't fly your flag upside down just because your neighbors has a different political view from you. Respect yourself. It's super easy. I feel like it's very basic logic. And some people, some people don't have that. Some people just don't.
Exactly. We have our hands full with the antics of these justices on the Supreme Court. We cannot be dealing with errant spouses as well. Like, please get it together, people.
Get it together. But I mean, do we even believe that it was her? I don't even know if I believe him. He could just be the one who did it and he blames her because, why not? Nobody will go after her because she's not the public figure. I don't know. I just there's so many things wrong with this story and this court as a whole, especially people like Alito and Justice Thomas. It is frustrating to see them ruling on decisions that are going to impact people for generations in such narrow-minded ways. And I can't wait till we maybe have another opening that we can, by we meaning hopefully the next president being Joe Biden, that we can at least get another useful justice on there, because the ones we have now, some of them really have to go. They really have to go. I'm tired of their shenanigans. They really have to go.
Well, I don't think that, well, let me try to be optimistic, okay? Because I think they're going to play the same tactic. If Joe Biden wins, none of them are going to retire. Not
Well,
Thomas, not Alito, not any of the other right wing judges.
I could say something here about God's plan and, but I'm not going to do that. Let's not do that. You don't always decide when you're going to leave the stage. That's all I'm going to say. Let's move on to the next topic. Let's move on to the next topic, which is about another person who just does really interesting things. We talked about MTG before, Marjorie Taylor Greene before. It's never for a good reason, and it's not for a good reason this time around, once again.
Yes, we have chaos agent Marjorie Taylor Greene going toe to toe with AOC and then eventually Jasmine Crockett this week at a House hearing. Um, so the House hearing was ostensibly about a contempt ruling or a contempt hearing for Attorney General Merrick Garland. Now, as has been the strategy for the last week or so from the GOP, Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to make it about the Trump trial by bringing up Judge Merchan, who is currently presiding the trial in New York City. And, Jasmine Crockett respectfully points out, or at least points out to her, that do you know what we're talking about? We're not talking about Judge Merchan, we're talking about Merrick Garland. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, being the classy lady she is, shoots back and starts insulting Jasmine Crockett's appearance, saying that she thinks her fake eyelashes are preventing her from being able to read. AOC obviously takes umbrage with that, requests for the remarks to be struck off the House record. The Oversight Committee is being presided over by the GOP. I forget the leader of this committee's name, but he refuses to strike off Marjorie Taylor Greene's statement. So Jasmine Crockett comes back with a sort of backhanded way of insulting Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I want to get this quote right. So she says that I need to understand the House ruling. Does it mean that if somebody says Marjorie Taylor Greene has a bleach blonde, bad built butch body, does that get to stay on the House record? And obviously the House descends into chaos at that moment with all sorts of points of order being called. But this entire episode just exposes the lie of, decorum and decency that Republicans keep claiming they want. And then when they act badly and that bad action is reflected back on them, they cannot take it.
Yeah, I first of all want to say that I was very impressed by the alliteration that Jasmine Crockett used. I mean, honestly, kids, this is why you got to listen in English class. She said bleach blonde, bad built, butch body. Say that 10 times fast. You can't. You cannot. I love this whole interaction because there's definitely the energy that some of the Democrats in the House have is very much like that whole when they go low, we go high. That's old news. If they go low, we're going low. I heard someone say when they go low, we take it to the floor. Like there's no more of that with the younger Democrats, and I love it for them. And so it was great to see someone illustrate in real time the hypocrisy and nonsense that Republicans are doing, especially Republicans in the House. That unit, that part of the government is so dysfunctional. Just last week, they were trying to argue about getting a speaker with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And now this week, she's causing more issues. I mean, that's their teammate, that's their person, but I don't know how anything gets done in the House with some of the Republicans that are there right now.
Exactly. And I want to just shout out Crockett here because I see a lot of people in the media, especially CNN, Jake Tapper, specifically him, trying to equate what she did. But that's not what she did. She tried to allow the House rules of decorum to be followed. Republicans refused to follow it. And then it's malicious compliance, right? And then she asked them, so if I said this, it's a hypothetical question, right? She didn't actually call Marjorie Taylor Greene that, but she said, if I said these sets of words about her, does that mean that you get to keep it? And obviously their hypocrisy is exposed because they become flustered. And Marjorie Taylor Greene then has the audacity to, say she should calm down and be decorous and all that. But this is the thing, they can dish it, but they cannot take it. And if you are going to come for somebody, you better be ready to take it. I like how AOC and Jasmine Crockett did not allow her to get away with it. There are a certain set of people who seem to think that they have the monopoly on what is decent and what is decorous. And they get to paint people like Jasmine Crockett as, loud and angry. But it is also loud and angry and disrespectful for you to start pointing out somebody's appearance on a formal House hearing floor. It doesn't get more indecent than that.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And I really can't wait for the election because I know that there's concerns around, Joe Biden and what his performance is going to be. But even the polls that show Biden behind show Democrats ahead in the House. And I think that's important because we need some of these Congress people need a real challenge in their districts. They're way too comfortable. They are way too comfortable in these gerrymandered districts where they feel like there's no challenge. They need to be pushed. They need to be challenged. And even if the Dems don't win back the House, I think a good solid challenge should hopefully scare the remaining Congress people into getting actual work done. But we'll see. It is an election year, so there's definitely some element of dramatics and, playing it up for the cameras going on as well. But I really hope there's a solid challenge for the House this November because we need to shake things up. It's so lame. It's beyond lame. The House can't do anything. What was the last thing they did? Like actually a law or a ruling that was made that actually helps people? I don't
Well,
remember, but
to
they
be
have time for
clear,
this.
that is the fault of the Republicans, and the only reason why the House is not devolving into an even more chaotic ground right now is because the House Democrats actually saved Johnson and let him keep his seat as Speaker. Otherwise, that's what we will be dealing with this week.
Well, yeah, of course, but even then, we're not doing any actual work, right? There's the House is in the control of the Republicans. They wanted the House, they got the House. Nothing has been done regardless. So we need to clean the House, basically. If they're not going to do their jobs, then we should send them back to where they came from and find new people.
Absolutely.
Okay, I wanted to talk about our next topic, which is our somewhat regularly occurring segment here we call unsolicited advice. And this week's unsolicited advice is for people who are traveling to Turks and Caicos. If you're not aware, Turks and Caicos is a beautiful destination in the Atlantic Ocean, an island Caribbean destination where firearms and ammunition are prohibited, very strictly prohibited, to the point where you can get arrested if you have stray bullets in your luggage. And the reason we know this is because 4 Americans have been charged. Well, at the beginning of the month, it was 4 Americans. Yeah, at the beginning of the month, it was 4 Americans. And then this week, a 5th American was charged for having stray bullets in luggage and being accused of carrying ammunition into the islands. And when this story first came up on our radar a couple of weeks ago, it was 3 or 4 people at the time, and we thought, okay, I guess it's a thing, but is it really a thing? This week we found out a 5th person, and we were like, this is a PSA to anyone traveling to Turks and Caicos. Please, please leave your bullets at home. Please, Americans, leave your bullets at home. Passports only, just, some sunscreen. Why do you need to bring bullets? That's what I don't understand. Why are people carrying bullets on international vacations? It makes no sense.
So, what I don't understand is, shouldn't your hunting bag be different from your Turks and Caicos bag? Like, it's a beach holiday. It should just be a novel, some slippers, some sunscreen, as you said. Why are there any random bullets in there?
That's definitely an important question. One of these men, so it's been 4 men, and I think the one this week was a woman. Which, girl, why? But the one of the men from earlier in the month, apparently the bullets were in his wife said it was his emergency bag, which blew my mind because I'm like, what emergency requires ammunition? I don't under. He's not a cop or anything. This is just like his go bag, and there's bullets in there, and I'm like, what do you think is going to happen, dude? But somehow he went on a plane through a U.S. airport. I mean, I have been through TSA multiple times. What
No,
is
they
all
didn't
that
let me take my
security?
yogurt today. They didn't let me take my yogurt, but somebody got through with bullets.
We can't even, like, if you don't have pre-check, you're still taking off your shoes to go through security. But people are bringing ammunition on planes, and that's making it past TSA in the US. And then people are getting to Turks and Caicos, and then on the way back. So apparently Turks and Caicos TSA is better than U.S. airport TSA. Because what other conclusion should we draw from this? What's the
Yeah,
conclusion we should be drawing from this? Why didn't they catch it on the way out? I mean, yes, why is the bullet in the luggage? I'm not even trying to blame TSA, honestly. It's not their job. They're not your babysitter. Just check your luggage for stray bullets, guys. That's just I guess just add that as a step if you're the kind of person who just
exactly.
constantly has
This
bullets.
is something we would never tolerate for tourists or immigrants here. We expect tourists and immigrants to obey the laws of our land. And, this same set of NRA crowd, the same people who are always like, you should just comply and you should just follow the law. And I'm sorry, then that applies to you when you go outside of the country. You have to follow the law over there as well.
That's true. And I saw that their governors, so the three governors from Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, sent a letter to the governor of Turks and Caicos asking for the residents from those states. So one man is from Oklahoma, one is from Pennsylvania, one is from Virginia. They sent letters to the governor of Turks and Caicos asking for their citizens to be freed, and all of them saying they left it in their luggage after vacation in the U.S. and are now facing a mandatory minimum 12 years. 12 years is the minimum sentence for this crime in Turks and Caicos. So, people are trying to get them home because these men have families, and you feel for their families. It's just, I'm really struggling. Like, after the first tourist, why was this still happening? I even saw that the U.S. Embassy in Turks and Caicos released a statement warning American travelers, because this law passed last year in Turks and Caicos. When it passed, the U.S. Embassy released a statement warning Americans, because I guess they knew people are constantly traveling with bullets and luggage. They warned Americans not to bring ammunition to the island. And somehow people did not get that message. So we are giving you unsolicited advice, but I think it could actually save your life here. Please don't bring your ammunition and guns on any vacation, actually. It's not just about Turks and Caicos. Leave that shit at home if you're going on a trip.
Now, for a more serious note, at this point, most of you have probably seen, heard, or know of the video of Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, assaulting his partner of many years, Cassie Ventura. Personally, I have not seen this video. The descriptions by news media are horrific enough. I put myself in Cassie's shoes, and I don't think anyone would want the world to see them at their lowest being punched by the man who claims to love them. Cassie made allegations of physical abuse and sexual abuse, including a description of this episode last year in her federal lawsuit against Diddy. The sad part is that she was met with skepticism from defenders of Diddy in the hip hop community, and some folks in the online rap and hip hop fan club. And it is sad that it now takes a video of her being brutalized, being punched, being dragged to the ground for folks to believe her now. Here is what we know so far. This incident happened 8 years ago in 2016 at a now closed Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. Cassie described this incident in our lawsuit and also alleged that Diddy paid someone at the hotel or some people at the hotel $50,000 to keep the footage and to keep this entire episode secret. The former management of the hotel, IHG, says it no longer manages the hotel is closed, has no record of the incident. And the Los Angeles DA has released a statement saying that the statute of limitations have passed. So it seems that at this point, Diddy's has no criminal repercussions to pay for this particular episode. Now, the only reason why we're even finding out about all of this in the first place is that Cassie was able to file a civil lawsuit in 2023 using the Adult Survivors Act that now allows victims of sexual abuse to file civil lawsuits several years after the statute of limitations of the abuse have passed. This brings up several questions for me, and should really bring up several questions for all of us. Cassie was in a relationship with Diddy for more than a decade, during which she alleges a vicious cycle of physical and sexual abuse. We know that victims of abuse are not able to speak up during the times that they are experiencing the abuse, and even for several years later after they leave the abusive situation. It seems to me that the hotel staff, hotel security, hotel management, someone or some people along those lines failed in their duty of care as citizens. I don't think hotel staff are mandatory reporters, but in general, we all have a duty to report something when we see something. And at least one person witnessed a violent crime in the hotel, one person saw it on the video, one person or people obtained the footage for Diddy and sold it to Diddy, and nobody reported this to the legal authorities. And this is how Diddy is able to get away from criminal repercussions for this episode, which feels like a deep injustice. Our culture of silence around domestic violence allows abusers to get away with abuse of women, abuse of children, abuse of really their partners or anyone around them, because businesses look away, human beings and individuals look away. Legally as well, it seems to me that we need to review what our laws are. If we know that victims of domestic violence and the victims of sexual abuse are not able to seek justice until several years later, it seems to me like we're doing them a disservice by keeping these kind of crimes under a statute of limitations. Now, Cassie and several other associates of Diddy have made various disturbing allegations against the billionaire. There's likely more damning evidence to come. But this episode really just brings to the forefront that there's a lot more work to be done. A lot of folks want us to believe that feminism has gone too far, Me Too has gone too far. But this is an episode that happened in 2016 when we're beginning to have these conversations, and someone like Diddy was still able to get away with a brutal, vicious attack of a woman. And here we have another episode where societal and legal structures conspired to keep a violent abuser from any consequences for years, and it still seems like he's not going to face a criminal consequence for this particular incident at this time. Now, I should note that Diddy has released what he calls an apology, where he says he is truly sorry for his actions in the video. I will note that he doesn't actually apologize to Cassie. He says he's working on himself, wants to be a better man. I would hope that men would try to become better without having to brutalize women's bodies to get that realization. That is all from us. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Liberal Banter. That's all we have for you today. We are away next week for Memorial Day. We hope you have the time off to rest and be with family, to reflect on our freedoms and why they matter. We have been Olu and Liz. You may find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Goodbye for now.